All right, so we want to talk about how's it different from the IMU. The first thing you have to know is that this is really all new. Everything about it is new. Many of the features are the same, but it's all new code because many of the IMU modules dated all the way back to the MMU days. This one is a lot more stable. It doesn't have the quirky errors that you're used to seeing. The long freezes have been eliminated. This is a multi-threaded program, and all long processes have been put on background threads. There's also no longer a wing server. This new program talks directly to the WMU, so nobody has to generate a database at the beginning of the month. Nobody has to upload everything from the database to the WMU, and if they forget, then we lose all our data. All that is gone. So we're just talking directly to the wing server. Now I can't, there we go. There's also a very smooth interaction with WMIRS 2. The screens have been changed, and you'll see them in a moment, to be identical with the WMIRS screens. So IMU looks just like WMIRS. Most data transferred is invisible to the user. You don't have to navigate to some kind of a screen and then click on things. It just, when you ask to bring something in from WMIRS to the IMU, it's completely invisible to you. It's just there. And when writing to WMIRS out of the IMS, it's called now the IMS, when writing to WMIRS, we still have to click the submit button. The screen will appear. You have to click it. That's what NHQ insists on. I am working with them to get rid of that. There's no reason we have to do that other than they're terrified that we're going to put some flaky thing into WMIRS, even though we could put anything flaky in we want anyhow, but it's beside the point. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so continuing on. What am I hearing? Okay, I have to mute everybody because I'm hearing, in order to mute, okay, it went away.
Yeah, I went ahead and muted them.
Thank you. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, good. So, still more differences. The local database, the one that's on your computer, is now encrypted. That was a concern for national headquarters. We found a way to do that. The offline capability is greatly enhanced. I know almost always you guys are using the IMS with internet. But when internet is not available, one of the advantages of a system that's on your computer is you can keep working even though the internet is down. And a local LAN can be used to share data between users. In other words, if there's a router where you are, there's a way to get on that router, share the information with everybody else. Nothing's going to the outside world because there's no internet, but all the users are working together. The beauty of this is that when internet is restored, the system automatically merges all the online and offline data so that when it's done, both WMIRS and the IMS look just as they would have looked if everybody had been online the whole time. And another difference is that a lot of the screens in the IMS or the IMU, the old IMU, were complicated. There was a lot of data to fill in that wasn't really necessary. We've broken it now into two parts, a simple mode for simple missions and an advanced mode for more complex missions. And the simple mode means you only have to fill out the kind of data that you would really expect to fill out. We met with the 1st Air Force a few weeks ago, And the first Air Force said that during a mission, WMIRS has no value to them. Before the mission, it shows the pregame plan, but after the mission, it shows what was done and how much was spent. But during the mission, it doesn't do them any good at all. The IMS is designed to fill exactly that hole, to show what's going on during the mission. And it works alongside of WMIRS, not instead of WMIRS. What we are recommending is that users should use WMIRS for all the functions that work well. The building sorties, the briefing, the debriefing, all of the logs, including the comm log. They have done a pretty good job. And all the data from those modules is seamlessly imported behind the scenes into the IMS when you have the IMS booted up. So all that data is in the IMS, and you can use it for the during the mission things, and I'll talk in a minute about the during the mission things. We want to limit writing to WMIRS from the IMS because national is so bonkers. Mainly, that's only necessary when internet is lost. And the system will create a single PDF either at the end of the day or at the end of the mission. One PDF which can be uploaded manually into WMIRS to meet the requirement of having all data in WMIRS. So WMIRS doesn't generate ICS forms and all the rest. All those things come as one PDF, upload it when you're done, either daily or at the end of the mission, and we've satisfied all of National's requirements. Now, there are a lot of functions that are not in WMIRS. WMIRS doesn't even know there's such a thing as an incident action plan. It doesn't know there's such a thing as a CAP Form 122, although that's going away. And the IMS has a module to optimize resource utilization, gives you a visual picture of how much dead time there is between the utilization of your resources so that you can optimize resource utilization. In the planning function is the main place that WMIRS just doesn't exist. There is no concept of a task in WMIRS. Remember, sorties, which is what WMIRS deals with, are the responsibility of the AOBD. But tasks are the responsibility of the planning section. And in general, the planning section is always working on tomorrow, not on today. And the way things are supposed to work in the incident command system is that the planning section generates tasks. At the end of the day, they give them to the AOBD. The AOBD builds sorties for those tasks. But then the planning section needs to track whether those tasks have been completed. And completing a sortie is not completing a task. You may need to photograph all the bridges on I-80 from Lovelock to Winnemucca, and you send out a sortie, and they get a part of it done, but not all of it done. And somebody's got to know that. Sign in and sign out is a disaster in WMIRS. I don't know whether all of you have played with this, but the ICS requires that people sign in and sign out every day. If you sign a person into WMIRS, build a bunch of sorties, and at the end of the day sign him out of WMIRS, all the sorties that you built with him in it after today go away, and you got to start over. So we're not touching the sign-in, sign-out, the sign-out module of WMIRS. There's nothing in WMIRS about intel. There's no tracking of clues or any kind of ground interviews. There's not an availability lookup tied in, where you can input availability and see who's available. We use the WMU and the IMS for that. There's no participant locator. If someone calls and desperate that the child is ill and the husband has to be found, good luck figuring out where that person is from WMIRS. And of course we have our grid maps of cumulative probability of detection in the IMS and not in WMIRS. The status board in WMIRS is not usable. The IMS will automatically calculate the PODs. It also does optimized route searches, known as probability of success, and that's what's taught by the AFRCC, even though it's not in the CAP manuals. You can put in special mission procedures which go onto all of the sorties instead of manually inputting them every time. There's real-time monitoring of the asset status as the aircraft fly. The maintenance module changes, and all of that is monitored within the IMS, so you can see exactly where you are, whether or not you have connectivity with WMIRS. And there's a module for people that have a spot. You can log in a spot as a resource, and you can click on a sortie that has a spot assigned to it, and it'll bring up the spot page, and you can see exactly where they are. And in the finance area, there's a module for generating actual and projected costs, whereas WMIRS only shows you the cost for things that are already completed. So there's a whole lot of functions that we're using in IMS, but we don't want to use the functions that are already in WMIRS because we just aggravate them on national headquarters. So that is the summary of what the IMS is about. And before I go on and demonstrate the system, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Okay. Now everybody's muted, Chow, right? So if they were trying to ask a question, they couldn't?
No, there's only one person that is muted. Everyone else should be able to talk.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so if there are no questions, I'm going to install the system and run the system. So on the on the WMU, just like you can go there to get a setup for the IMU, there's now also a setup for the IMS. And the IMS is, again, completely different. You can have both the IMU and the IMS on your system. But once we switch over to the IMS, we can't use the IMU on the same missions anymore because it's a very different data structure. It's a very different look. So if we install the IMS,
Now, is this going to install it into our computers that we're using currently?
You will have to go and get it and install it on your computer.
Okay. It just looks
Remember,
like
you guys are just viewing Ralph's computer. This is doing nothing to your computer whatsoever. It would be like having a webcam on.
Now, I'm just wondering why we can't grab that and put it in our computer right now. Ease of operation.
Well, you could, but frankly, I would rather not have everybody playing simultaneously. I'd rather have people watching.
Yeah.
We'll give you a link to it, and you can install it after the webinar.
Links are extremely helpful for a novice. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So it's now installing itself. It's building databases, and there are 3 modes in which this can be used. Offline means that it's what we used to call test missions. If you're just playing and you don't want to save stuff, and Ted is asking, will it work on Windows 10? Yes, it'll definitely work on Windows 10. That's what I'm running. If you just want to play, you want to use the offline mode, and it won't put anything out in the WMU. It'll read stuff from the WMU, but it won't contaminate our mission databases out there. And then there is offline, local LAN, and online. Offline local LAN is if there is no internet where you are, it will actually create data to put in the WMU. It'll put it there in real time if there's internet, and it'll put it there when internet is restored if there is no internet. And online is what the normal way to use it, where you're just online and talking directly with WMIRS and with the WMU. So those are the three modes, and I'm going to do offline because the stuff we're doing here is not real and we don't want it archived in the WMU. When you download it, I recommend you play with it in the offline mode. And one thing which I didn't mention is that the IMS works with both the real WMIRS system and the test WMIRS system. So to play, I recommend you work in the test WMIRS system. You can build missions, you can build sorties. It doesn't hurt anything. You don't have to worry about cleaning it out after. So working offline and test system is the way to do training and practice. So we'll start the application. And what it's doing now is it's going out to the WMU. It's bringing in all the Nevada Wing members, and it's bringing in whatever missions Nevada Wing has run in the last 90 days. So those will be the things that we can select from and operate with. And it takes between 1 and 2 minutes when you start it up.
Hey, Ralph.
You get all that stuff done, yeah.
Okay, so you are not a member of the Nevada Wing, but you are on call as the IC and you pick up a mission.
Yeah.
It doesn't include you.
That NV in the first screen was only because you don't want to bring in the entire WMU database. So it brings in all the members of whatever you put there, PCR, Oregon, Nevada. You can log in anybody in the world as long as you have internet connectivity. As soon as I log in with my CAP ID, it'll add me to the database.
Okay.
Okay? If you don't have internet, you have a more complicated thing, and we can talk about that some other time. I don't want to go into all the offline modes because they get much more complicated, and not everybody needs to know about them.
Not a problem.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to log in, and you're not going to see what you're used to seeing. You're going to use your regular WMIRS password. We're talking to WMIRS, it's real time. In order to make sure I'm real and bona fide, I'm putting in my WMIRS username and password. At least I'm trying to. I have to put them in manually. Okay, that's my WMIRS login, and it'll either come back and tell me you're a pretender, or it'll say up at the top like this, Ralph Miller, and I'm logged in. In offline mode, Brian, you will not see this screen. You will see the old screen that you're used to seeing with a CAP ID and a birth date. So now that I've logged in, my next step is to open an incident. And I did create an incident, and I'm going to open WMIRS because I do want to demonstrate that these two things go side by side. You want both of them up on your screen, and I did it in the development system. You notice this check mark, where's my mouse? Check mark right here. Check this box if it's only for training and it's in the WMIRS test. So that's where it is, and the WMIRS test system is here, and it's identifiable because it is green. And keep that in mind so you don't screw up WMIRS. WMIRS is blue, pretend WMIRS is green. And I have created a dummy mission which is a missing person. And it is 3071. This is the mission right here. I have 2 air sorties. I have no ground sorties at the moment. And there are 2 air sorties. And as I said, the beauty of this is you can create these. You can create as many as you want. You're not hurting anything. There's nothing real here, but it looks just like the real thing. So now I have my mission, and I have Monday, September 21st, and it's warning me now that I can bring my mission data in from WMIRS, and I want to. Even though it was on that other screen, I can bring it in here.
Finally, there's the WMIRS.
And as I say, when you bring things in now, you don't see anything. You may see a little box saying talking to WMIRS, or you may see this brown box saying it'll take us a minute. Now it's telling me I'm using the test system, and that may have a different password. If you change your password in real WMIRS, it won't necessarily change in test WMIRS. So
We don't have a password for WMIRS. We go in.
And you can see here that we have simple and we have complex. And we also have some setup functions, which we'll talk about in another time. But we'll go into the simple mode. And in the simple mode, there's just relatively few things that you can do. And where I want to start is with air sorties. Well, I want to start with sorted tasking, but there's not a lot to do. I set up 2 tasks.
No 10 highways.
And you can get at the task by clicking on it, and it brings up the task screen. So that's how you create tasks. The planning section is the first section that operates. Well, the command is you should do an incident action plan in ICS 201. The next thing that happens is that planning sets up sorties. Sorties get set up first. After sorties are set up, we can set up air sorties. And now when you click on air sorties, what you get is something that looks more like what WMIRS looks like. It's just a list of sorties, and it's exactly the same information as is on this screen right here. WMIRS, ICS, same thing. You notice that these are in WMIRS, but they're not in the IMS. I can bring them into the IMS. If I click on the IMS thing here, would you like to copy this sortie into the IMS from WMIRS? Yes, I would. It does its thing.
We're not seeing these different screens that you're talking about.
Okay, is anybody else not seeing it?
I am seeing it, Ralph. Thomas.
I can see it, no problem.
Yeah, we can see it also.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
we're still on. We just have the screen that says task list, and now we can see the WMIRS screen.
Okay. So at the moment I am I'm bringing in a sortie, and it's telling me that the normal thing we want to do is put the name of the task in the tracking number field. If there is no task name in the tracking number field, we don't use those funny things like 21/8 anymore. WMIRS sorties are exactly the same as, or IMS sorties are exactly the same as WMIRS sorties, A001 and A002. And now it's telling me that my WMIRS sortie does not have a task name in the tracking number field, which is not a problem. Click on yes if you'd like to create a new task in the IMS. Click on no if you want to assign a existing task, and cancel if you don't want to assign anything. So I'm going to click on no. I have my tasks. I know what task I want to assign to this, and this is going to let me assign it to it. Once it's assigned, I won't see this anymore. It'll talk back and forth between WMIRS and the IMS seamlessly. So I want to assign the Reno 10 highway search to this. Now the sortie is in there, and there's my sortie. It came in from WMIRS. It's got the tasking order in it. I didn't have to do anything. It just gets there. And now I've got a WMIRS sortie. Because the system needs to know when you're done with this page, because you might want to make some changes, and you can make changes here. You notice up here, when you're done, click on the X to return to the air sortie. So I'm going to just click update to be on the safe side. I don't think I really needed to, and I'll click the X. And now you see that sortie 1 is in both IMS and WMIRS. And now, if I want to bring in number 2, I can click on that. Do I want to copy it? Yeah. And it'll ask me about a task. Oh, it's going to give me an unhandled exception. So Pete, you're there? Was Pete there? Not there. So we're finalizing this, and this is a problem that we've had. It's not resolved. It'll get resolved. Okay, so you see that, Pete. You got to resolve it. He sent me a note. So here's all my sorties. I can't bring that one in right now. But now I can come back to my main WMIRS screen, and I have all my things that I am accustomed to doing. I can create ground sorties, I can import ground sorties, I can import my mission facilities, my channel plan, my comm log, my unit log. There are reports like there have always been. Right now, the WMIRS input summary is the only report that has been generated. And I can print selected reports, I can archive all reports for the incident data, or I can archive a complete mission package. It'll create a PDF, I can put it on my desktop, and then I can go to WMIRS and upload that whole package to WMIRS. I can also, if I want, write to WMIRS, and as I said, that's a little bit more work because of what NHQ has insisted on. But up at the very top is WMIRS and transfer sortie to WMIRS. And right now, WMIRS doesn't have the tracking number. This does have the tracking number. But if I transfer this, the tracking number will be there. And we're organized in 3 pages, just like WMIRS is. There's the first page, there's the briefing page, and there's the debriefing page. And what's going to happen is it's going to put all the data there. Now the tracking number is here in WMIRS, but the law is I have to click the update button. I don't have to do anything else. I didn't have to navigate to this page. This came up automatically. This is a page under the control of the IMS. All I have to do is click update, and it'll bring up the second page, and all I have to do is click update, and it'll bring up the third page, and all I have to do is click update. So if I want to write to WMIRS, I can do it. We want to minimize that. but it's available, it's simple. We can bring in from WMIRS. Last thing that I need to describe is that one computer, it won't matter if it's more than one, but at least one computer needs to open up a special program, and I don't know whether Pete put that on for tonight or not. It's not quite finished. You want to send me a note, Pete, whether the listening program is here or not? Yeah, I have a question from Daryl. Will the IMS interface solve the logout problem? The answer is no, it won't. That is a safety thing that they required, and we have to honor it. All that'll happen is if you're in the IMS and you try to do something and it sees the login screen, it'll flash up the little login that I used in the first place, and you have to put your stuff back in. And I also got asked whether demobilization cost is included. In the cost program, you can add lines. So it'll automatically track all of your ground sorties and air sorties, and it'll have 3 columns because for an Air Force mission, we just use fuel. For another federal agency, we use the regular maintenance cost plus fuel. And for a non-federal agency, there is a higher maintenance cost plus fuel. So depending on who your customer is, one of 3 costs will be appropriate, and we'll calculate all 3 of them. So Pete told me the listening program is here, but he didn't tell me where it is. But I'm going to tell you what the listening program is. The listening program just goes on one computer. The best one would be the one that's showing your status board. So it's under setup functions, he says. It's under setup functions. And let's see, WMIRS monitoring is inactive, and we can make it active. What happens is you can still use that computer. It can be somebody who's doing other work. It'll slow them down a little, but not a lot. Every 5 minutes, it'll go out and it will get everything listed here. So you can get the WMIRS com log, the WMIRS unit log, the WMIRS facilities list, the WMIRS personnel list, or the sign-in list. And what it'll do is it will make sure, as it looks at each entry, whether you already have that entry or not. If the entry is unchanged, it won't do anything. If the entry is new, it'll add it. If the entry is modified, it'll modify your existing entry. So,
Ralph and Steve, quick question.
Yeah.
Can more than one computer have this?
Yes, they can. They can, but that's just a drain of power. Because like everything else, everything that one guy does is automatically transferred to everybody. Just like you've always been able, if I add a sortie, you can see it a minute later. So all that information is being transferred to everybody, so there's no advantage to having 2 people do it. It won't hurt anything. You don't have to worry, oh my God, does somebody else have it? When the WMIRS monitoring is active, we're going to put a flag on that computer screen so you know that that computer is doing the monitoring. But because it's on a background thread, it doesn't interfere with your user interface. You can just go merrily on your way. It just happens in the background. So there you have it. We have grossly simplified the communication between WMIRS and the IMS. And if we can get national comfortable, you won't have to click the submit button anymore. We have reorganized it so that there is a simple version and a complex version. For example, when you can construct a task from the complex version, there's a whole lot more information. It's very much like what the complex task in today's IMS was like. It wants to know who is the customer, who's the contact at the customer, and all that kind of stuff. If you need it, you can use it. If you don't need it, you just stay right here. You have a relatively simple interface to do the things that you need to do. We want to use WMIRS as the primary source of input for those things that WMIRS is capable of doing. The logs, the sorties, of course, flight releases, all those things we do directly in WMIRS. But once a sortie is ready to get briefed, and well, we do the briefing too. Once a sortie is ready to take off, the status board, the monitoring, during the debrief, the calculation, the PODs, the putting it all on that little graph that's there, all those things are what we use in IMS for. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Did you see the question from Carol? If the mission changes from simple to complex, does it happen seamlessly?
If the mission changes from single to complex, you just use the here's the file menu and create incident complex from this incident, and it'll ask you for a name, and then this will be an incident complex, and this mission will be request number 1 under that mission.
Is IMS just a Nevada thing, or is it going national?
Well, the main users of the IMU are Nevada, some in Idaho, some in Oregon, some in Texas, some in Florida, some in Tennessee, and we will make it available to all the current IMU users. My job is to convince the senior management of CAP that this is a benefit and they should be recommending that others use it as well. I hear somebody talking in the background. I don't know if they're trying to ask a question.
Hi, Ralph. It's Harvey. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Will we still use the same system to produce the quarterly reports for the state?
Yes. Yes. I will have to adjust the program. Maybe, I'm not sure. I think I won't even need to adjust it, because all that stuff is in WMIRS or in WMU. All the program does is go out to the WMU, get the 211, and look for all the names in the 211. I don't think it'll even need a programming change, but I'll test it when we have a couple missions and see.
And that brings up a good point for everyone about logging the personnel in at the beginning. Ralph, did you want to go a little more about why it's important to use the IMS on that regard?
Yeah. So what I am very tempted to do, and I haven't really made a final decision yet, but that having to sign in order to put a person in. And by the way, you have to log in a ground vehicle. You don't have to log in an aircraft in order to create a sortie. Go figure. You do have to log in a person to add the person to any kind of a sortie. And what I'm looking at doing in the IMS is creating a little button somewhere that will put all the GES qualified people into, we'll sign them into WMIRS using, I don't know if any of you have used it, but there's I'll go there. In WMIRS, there is a thing called bulk login. Sign in new personnel and bulk login. And what you can do is you can put a comma-separated string of up to 100 people. And I'm thinking I'll just generate a string of all of my people, and maybe it'll be 2 or 3 screens worth. Just log them all in so I don't have to worry about it. And we're still playing with that, whether we want to go that way or not. I don't know whether that'll make the people at national headquarters berserk or not. So, but you know, for the moment, you need to be responsible for doing what you got to do to to create sorties. Whatever you have to do to create sorties in WMIRS is what you have to do.
So hopefully everyone gets the idea that the logging of personnel will be the IMS, but most of your actual preparation is still going to be done in WMIRS. This is not like the old IMU.
Except for the planning section. The planning section has to work in the IMS. And they have to do their job first. So, Pete, if you would send me a message with a link, I'll give the link to everyone. Or does everyone see the chats? Let's wait till it pops.
Ralph, do you have a target date for this? I mean, what are you shooting?
Okay, here's what I would really like to do, because you can't mix and match old missions. All missions expire October 1st. I'd like to, you know, spend the next week, people can play with it, and October 1st I'd like to start using it. If we start using the old one on a mission, we can't switch on that mission.
I concur.
As a non-computer geek, Tom Miller, Ralph, you made it look easy and fun. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We've really worked hard to make it easy. You know, the IMU had a lot of functionality, but it was not a brilliant user interface because it was just so old and it got updated. It was a one-man show by Pete, and he did really yeoman work. But we really bit the bullet a couple of months ago and said we're going to redo this whole thing and we're going to redo it in a modern way. And now it's smooth and it's quick and it's simple and all the quirks are gone, at least as far as we can see, they're all gone. I'm sure when we start using it, somebody will do something that we never thought of doing, and it'll create a problem, and we'll get it fixed quickly, but we should be really good to go with this.
That happens with change, but I don't see any reason not to change October 1. Absolutely.
Ralph, is there a way, because I'm thinking for training purposes, and when we take this changeover, and I think October 1 is a good time, and maybe Kyle and I and Tim can sit down and look at this, because we need to establish a flow.
Yes.
Flow.
Right.
Just like we had in the IMU, and I think that makes training this system a whole lot easier.
Well, I'll tell you what I think would be a good idea would be for a smaller group of us, and I'll be glad to participate, we can do a desktop. We can either do it in person or we can do it like this, but everybody will have the IMS. And we can actually go through the thing. We don't need to create 50 sorties. You know, 3 or 4 will do. But we'll launch them, we'll put in ETAs, we'll watch the status board, and that's where I think you'll get your flow. So,
Station going to be available on YouTube?
what are you going to do with the recording, Shile?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to edit out some of the first 5 minutes of trying to get everyone to view it. And then I should, give me a day or so, but I should have no problem getting this up on YouTube along with the Dropbox presentation we did a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Tim,
So-
or
Yeah.
Ralph, there's a couple questions here. What are the platforms? What browsers? What?
Okay, so I never used a browser. You can
Okay.
do WMIRS however you want to do it. There
Okay.
is no browser with the IMS. There is a programmed browser that I created and I am responsible for, and it automatically appears when you try to write something to WMIRS. But other than that, there is no browser.
What about a tablet?
This will not run, the IMS will not run on a tablet. It'll only run on Windows. That's the only platform for running the client.
Okay.
That's the CAP standard, and you know, we may get to tablets someday, but we've got a lot of things that we would want to do before that. Brian was asking about the unhandled exceptions like the one I generated. All I can tell you, Brian, is we kill those one at a time. We knew that we had a problem that generated that one. I thought it had gotten fixed this afternoon, but apparently it didn't. But that's why we need to spend some time with more people actually doing a mission simulation, because for sure somebody's going to do something that we never even dreamed of. And when that happens, that's when unhandled exceptions occur.
With that in mind, yeah, with that in mind, can we set up maybe a 2-hour tabletop mission at the conference?
Yes, we certainly can.
Carol, we got space for that?
Yep, we'll make space for that. This is important. Right, Shile?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Would that be as easy a program as this GoToMeeting was to sign in?
So Brian, I have Brian, your comment about data validation, and I think that we have data validation handled. In terms of the kinds of rejected if they're inappropriate. Now, some things, you know, are not. If someone signs in a private aircraft, which is 1, 2, 3 X-ray, and really it's 2, 3, 4 X-ray, nothing in the world is going to handle that. But in terms of throwing exceptions from wrong data types and so forth, we've been very careful trapping all of that. I'm just going through this list. Windows 10 is what I'm using. It absolutely works on Windows 10. And lots of people want to use tablets, but that's not in the near future.
What about previous versions of Windows? Windows 10 is great, but what about Windows?
Oh, it'll work on everything back to XP.
Okay.
It won't work on Windows 2000.
Now, because this is somewhat complicated for some people, are you and Pete going to develop like a little flow chart or a guide as to when you're actually running an incident? Do this from WMIRS, do this from IMS, do this. I mean, just even like a one-page thing to help people. Is that possible?
We are going to next do documentation.
Okay.
So I did not get the link for people to download the setup program from Pete. I will email that to Shile and Carol tomorrow, and you guys can disseminate it so that people can get it. And again, I just want to say, and here I'll actually do it because it really is important. If I go back to creating an incident. Open incident. And if I type in something brand new that I create in WMIRS, let's say I create REQ. Here, I'll go into WMIRS. I'll do it really so that you see what it is that I'm doing. I've got the current missions and add a mission, enter new mission. So I'm just going to create a mission. There's no problem creating missions. So we'll create a fire patrol mission, and we'll call it NV Fire, and this is testing only. And
I really want to reiterate to everyone that he's in the development WMIRS program. Please don't go in and start doing this.
Right. That's what I want to emphasize, and I want to show the checkbox that you really need to check. So I need a mission start date, I need a mission end date, and mission scenario, help the firefighters. And this is for the fire guys, and Joe is our POC, and I'm going to add this mission. So this mission is now Rec 150238. So now if I go back here and I add, I think I screwed up by leaving this screen. Let me cancel and do it again. No, something's open. Here. No. Okay, let me. So this is Rec 150238. I've got so many screens open that I'm making myself crazy. Rec 150238. And check this box, please. Now, the good news is, if I went to WMIRS, it probably wouldn't find this requisition number. So there's some fail-safe, but please check this. And do you want to transfer this? Yes, I do. Test WMIRS. We put that in to be fail-safe. So now, yes, this is for PCR wing. That's what I did. And so now it brings in everything that I did. And now I have another mission that I can create sorties and anything I want to do, and nothing will hurt anybody. So create a test mission in WMIRS. Enter the, when you open the incident, enter the rec number, and let it import the data, and you're good to go. Okay, tomorrow, Shail and Carol are going to get a link for people to download the setup program. They can set it up on their machine. They can play to their heart's content. If you have problems, send me emails, call me. We'll get this group running and comfortable, and I'll leave it to Shail and Carol to set up a time for a formal tabletop and really run through a flow. That's it for me, guys, unless anybody else has anything.
All I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, you're welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, I am going to stop recording.